Hi, welcome to this Business Coach Kit training session. Developing a KPI sheet for your client is a key part of systemization coaching. This video explains how and why we do this. At the end of this coaching session, you will have learned how a KPI sheet is used in systemization coaching and how to develop a KPI sheet for a client. The training, and indeed the use of the KPI sheet, assumes a basic level of Excel skills. Systemized businesses use numbers to control performance. Systemized businesses use monthly management reviews to develop a shared model of the business and to use that model to control performance. The KPI sheet is where these two things come together to create a dashboard for your client's business. KPIs on the sheet will include financial and non-financial numbers. And together these provide a simplified view of past and future business performance. So what you're trying to do with the KPI sheet is to develop your clients and your clients' management team's model of their business, their shared common view of business and how to affect its performance. Typically on a KPI sheet, numbers will cover marketing, sales, operations and financial results. And obviously some of these are backward-looking KPIs and some are leading indicators. KPI sheet holds the last 12 months KPIs actuals together with rolling averages for the last 3 and last 12 months. So these rolling averages allow you and the client to discuss trends and direction of the business whilst screening out any 1-month variations or swings. Ideally, the KPI sheet also holds the target figures for the next 12 months, which we call a live plan. So you don't simply hand your client a KPI sheet. These things are developed over time as you and the client get a better understanding of the business, and indeed as you proceed along other strands of the systemization process. So you may not start actually developing a KPI for several sessions, perhaps 2, 3, 4 months into the coaching assignment. The start point for developing a KPI is usually some kind of summary profit and loss and other financial figures. These are numbers that most businesses have to hand or can easily get from their finance system, and to a certain extent they understand these numbers already. So the core of our KPI sheet is this simplified summary profit and loss, and then we kind of top and tail this with leading indicators such as marketing inquiries, sales pipeline, sales results. Those are also relatively easy to add on at an early stage. If they're not being measured now, it's an easy win for your client to start measuring them. Finally, usually at last, we add in operational indicators relevant to the kind of business you're talking about. Such, for a service business, it might be fixed time. For a distribution business, it might be delivery performance. So we build it over time in our discussions with our clients as we tease out and they begin to understand the things that matter in their business. We add them to this dashboard for them. So as I say, the KPI sheet, once complete and in use, has 12 months forecast or plan and 12 months actuals, and these obviously meet on the current month or the previous month being reviewed. But actually, that's a bit of an ask to get a client or to help a client create that from scratch, from a standing start. So usually the easiest way to get this going is to start with actuals for the current month and work through for 2 or 3 months, just putting in actuals, certainly for the financials, and then add in some sales and marketing actuals. So the client then starts to understand where the numbers are coming from. You can prove that they can actually get these numbers. And you're really building that understanding, start to develop this kind of mental model of the business on the KPI sheet. And then as this builds up and the client starts to get it and then starts to understand some of these if-then relationships, then it's much easier to say, okay, well, why don't we start to plan this forward for the next 12 months? Because they're familiar with what the tool is for, rather than saying, well, let's create a massive plan to start with. We're not really sure how this all hangs together. So usually start with actuals. The template provided in the Business Coach Kit, it's got some fairly standard stuff in. You'll see in a couple of seconds when we look at it, around finance, marketing, sales, but really has to be customized to suit each of your clients. You need a basic level of Excel skills to do this, cutting, pasting, inserting formulas, a little bit of formatting, but nothing very dramatic. Most of it's there for you. You really just have to, perhaps remove indicators you don't need or rename things that they are going to use. Often you'll find the client might have an employee, maybe a bookkeeper or administrator who's has a level of Excel skills, and they can do this for you. So you really sort of set this is what I want to achieve, make it look like this, and they can create it for you. However you get there, it's really critical that the client owns, understands, and believes in the KPI sheet. It's not your KPI sheet, it's their KPI sheet. So you really need to transfer this to them as quickly as possible. As I said earlier, often, it will take several months of other discussions, putting out the various things that are on fire before you start to get to the point of introducing this KPI sheet. You really need a vision to make sense for KPI sheet, or the client rather needs a vision before you can make sense of the KPI sheet. And usually functioning CRM is useful if you want your marketing and sales information to be readily to hand. Here's a quick run through the KPI sheet, showing you how we can edit it, add KPIs, how the thing works, and what the various sheets do. So we have an instructions tab. We have a plan. This is your client's future numbers. We have an actuals. These are your client's actuals numbers. We have a budget. This is where you have this month on the plan, and it's also appearing on the actuals. So you get you can compare the two, and the two are compared in the variance and the variance percent tabs. You'll see on the plan and actuals sheets, you have these yellow fields. Yellow is where you enter data. The white cells are formulae or blank. Don't edit them, you'll mess the sheet up. The sheet is unprotected so that you can do what you like with it to meet the needs of your clients. So let's look at the plan. The plan and the actuals layout are exactly the same. These layouts are also the same, but they don't have the yellow cells, so you can't edit anything on budget, variance, or variance percent, only on plan and actuals. And clearly the plan, what you're editing or what your client is editing, are future values, what they want to happen, and on the actuals, what they're entering are actual values, the actual values that their business has achieved. So you'll see, looking at the columns, we have an owner column. So it's a good idea to make sure your client has an owner for all of these values that are being entered in. Not only should that person actually enter the values on the sheet so that they own them, but also they should line up with the accountability initiative that's going on in your client's business. So if he or she is working through delegation, getting employees to take ownership of certain outcomes, that should match down here in terms of the owners and where these outcomes are recorded. We have the actual titles down here of the things that are being measured. Then we have the months. Now this works, if you change this month, I'm not going to, but if you change this month, we get the next 12, we get the next months across here. Currently it's showing 12, and you'll notice there's an insert column here. This is where we add a new month to the plan, 13 months out if you like. We'll go through doing that in a minute. Finally, we have 3 really useful columns. You have a total. This is the last 12 sets of data, an average for the last 3 months, and the moving average for the last 12 months. So clearly, on the plan, this is not particularly useful. But it works the same on the actuals. But on the actuals, you can see here, this is telling you and your client, what's happening to these moving averages. So you can see in this case that the last 3 months moving average is lower than the last 12 months. So something's going on in the business. And this gives you a total for looking at sort of an annual value for what's going on. So the white cells, the formula, you don't touch them. You only enter the yellow cells. Down the side, we've got some sort of default KPIs that you can use, or you can remove or edit, do what you like with. So we've got this is really about inquiries. So I guess you can call this a marketing section. So how many inquiries did we have? How many came in a month? How many did we move through to sales proposals, and how many did we qualify out? And then there's a closing balance. Here's some sales stuff. So proposals we had, new proposals we did, that comes from up here. How many did we lose? How many did we win? How many have we got sitting proposed? And we've got finally this last sales KPI, which is what's the size of my quote bank. Actually, this is proposals, the value of the proposals here. So here we're calling proposals, here we're calling it quotes. You can see we've got a couple of KPIs here. Marketing cost per inquiry, so it's calculated from a marketing cost lower down. Average order value, this is based on my quote bank and my open proposals. Here we have an order bank value. So this is not exactly sales, this is more leading into your production side of the business, but obviously a useful number for many businesses. Then we have 3 product lines, 1, 2, and 3. You can just use one, get rid of the other 2, or you can add another one if you like, and obviously you can change product 1 to mean something to your client, so put whatever their product lines are called. And for all, we've got very simple turnover, direct cost, gross profit. The detail of these will be in the management accounts. This is a dashboard here. We don't really want to look at the detail. If you wanted to, you could split direct costs and change this to have, say, material and labor costs as separate lines. And we've got a gross margin showing here. So whereas a KPI, so it's smaller font and italic just to separate that out. This totals the above 3 products: turnover, direct cost, gross profit, and again a gross margin. And then we've got a very simple split of overheads. We don't really want all the overhead lines here. That's in the finance reports. We don't want to be getting into that level of detail. You could simply have one line for overheads. It's often useful to split out marketing spend, so we can look at return on marketing up above, and it's also often useful to split out employment costs, so that we could look down here at things like employment productivity and employment return based on our turnover over employment and our net profit over employment. So here we are, total overheads and net profit. We have some working capital balances. These may or may not be relevant to any particular client. You can ignore or remove the ones that aren't relevant. I've got a total working capital figure, and then we've got some KPIs down here based on the working capital, just converting that into days so that we can normalize the thing for growth. So that's the layout of the plan sheet. As I said, the actual sheet is exactly the same layout. It's just that you put an actuals in, not planned. Briefly, the way the budget sheet works. So you can see here that you can't edit any of this stuff. There's some sort of fairly horrible formulas in here, but basically it's saying if I've got, this is looking at my actuals, so it matches actuals. So last actuals month, so this business record last actuals month was February 17th, and And the budget says, okay, if I can find February 17th in the plan, which I can, I'm going to show what that plan was saying. So this is a way of aligning up our actuals with our plan. So the plan normally is 12 months into the future, and the actuals normally are 12 months into the past. So if you haven't had a plan covering those months, it won't appear here. But if you're up and running with this, you've planned the last 12 months. Now you've got 12 months actuals. This will show all of those planned numbers, and then that feeds through to the variance. So if it says, yes, I've got some actuals and I can match a plan, so I'm going to call that a budget, then it shows a variance in pounds or currency or number of units or whatever it might be. And finally, it shows that as a percentage, so as a percentage variance. So when you're working with your client, you add some actuals and they had a plan for that month, you can then print out or view on the screen. I suggest you print out for their management meeting, the actuals, the budget, the variance, the variance percent. That allows you to work through the business with them. Okay, I'm just going to demo the insert now. So basically the cycle is you have a monthly management review with your client, and at the end of that review, you save that file away as February 17th or whatever it was, Feb 2017, and now you need to insert another row for the next month. So where it says insert, it's very straightforward. Remember, the sheet is completely unprotected. Make sure you've always got backups. So we insert a row, and then you copy this row. So the whole row, I've highlighted the whole row, copy, paste. This is a formula, so it changes to March. Now, I don't want all of these values in the yellow because these were February's values, but I do want the formula. So I'm just going to go through and delete all the yellow bits. Being careful not to delete the formula. Remember, this is unprotected, this sheet, so you can do what you like with it. You can also, screw it up big time with a click of a mouse. So now I'm all set. I've got my March blank column ready for my clients delegated managers to enter in these values. So I'd save this away, called perhaps March 2017. Clearly, on the plan side, you don't need to do this every month, but this gradually gets out of date, and then you do this exactly the same process, but you're inserting 1, 2, 3 months into the future. In this case, it would be January 18, February 18, and you roll the plan forward. You put in in the yellow cells, you put in your plan or your client's plan for the future. And you don't need to do this every month, but ideally, you keep this 12 months ahead of where you are, and you keep this showing the last 12 months. And then each time you add in a new column, so we now got March. I only want to see 12 here. All of this only, the averages and totals only work on 12, but it gets a bit messy, it gets a bit wide if I want to print the thing out. So what I suggest you do is kind of hide each time you add a new column, hide the column to the left. You can do that by using format hide column. I've just basically shrunk the thing. Okay, let's just look at adding a KPI. I'm just going to undo that shrink for now, just to keep it slightly easier. So I'm going to add, I can add it plan or actuals to start with. I'm going to start with the on the actuals column. So let's say I'm going to add a KPI called this is maybe it's a distribution company of some kind, so I'm going to call it total deliveries. They're interested in how many deliveries did we do. I don't want that to be like that just now. I want that to be normal. And I'm going to add another one called on time in full deliveries. That's pretty important for me as a distribution company. And I'm actually going to add another one here, on time in full ratio. So I do want that to be a KPI. Let me get this away. I want this to be ordinary. So these two columns here, I'm going to mark them yellow because I want someone to be filling this in. I don't know, my warehouse manager or someone is going to be keeping track of this. Down here, I'm going to put a little formula in, equals if this isn't 0, that divided by that. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it blank. Okay. So just to demonstrate, 100 deliveries, 90 on time in full. I'm going to call that a percent. Okay, I've got a 90% on time in full ratio. Right, so I'm just going to roll this across here. Not forgetting my blank March column. I don't need to put it in here because this is just a dummy column that I insert on. But I do need to think about, well, what do I need here? Do I need my totals and averages? Yeah, I do. I want to know. So I'm just going to copy one of these rows up here, stick it in here. And even though they're blank because you haven't got any numbers in them, well, if I just show you, if I put in 110, 89, it'll be picked up here. So I'm starting to get my averages here. There's nothing in for the last 3 months. And I don't yet have a total because, why don't I have a total? Because I didn't have a total here. So let me find a column where I've got a total. Here, don't want to use that one because it's currency. See if I can find one that's a number. Down here. So I want to see the total. And I'm going to copy this here. So I've also got a total for the KPIs. There's a value here. It doesn't like it because these are empty. So I could fix this by putting in this error. At the moment, I'm just going to leave it. So the point being, to do this, you don't need to be a wizard at Excel, but you do need to know your way around, or the client needs to have someone who knows their way around Excel. So you can kind of talk them through what you want to see on this and they can do it for you. So I'd fix that value, but I haven't got time in this video to do it. Okay. So here, this is on my actual sheet. A word about actuals. Normally you're adding actuals at this end, going backwards, so to speak. So, you know, the first actuals you add in are not 12 months ago, they're a month ago, but I've just put some numbers in to illustrate it. So I've added that to the actuals. Now, key thing is I must add this to my plan as well. Okay, so I'm going to check it's the same. 69, 69, that's right. So I'm going to put it in here. This will all work. It's exactly the same on this sheet. So that plan side, obviously the numbers are different. I've just put these in for illustration. What you do here is you start to plan out your delivery performance, and on the actuals, you at this end be recording the actual. So you use the two sheets differently, but the sheets are the same. On the budget sheet, we do need to add these things, but really we just need to add the title, because down here, all the way down, another 50 rows or something, we've already got the formulas. So all I need to do is to go to here and say, actually, I'm looking at these two these 3 titles, and it's in row 69. So I want them in my budget printout as well. You can see you've got some numbers here actually coming through, and my variance sheet 69. Got nothing coming through because the thing doesn't have a plan for our sort of actuals month, so it's just empty. But I'm putting this in for when we do get some numbers, and also again on 69. So one thing you'll notice on the budget sheet, we've added in this new KPI here, but the formatting here is not right. It's not the end of the world, but you want that as a percentage and shown as in smaller in italics. So again, once you're adding these things in, there's a little bit of tweaking to be done that requires some basic Excel skills just to make it work. But I hope you can see there that it's really pretty straightforward to adapt this KPI sheet, so it really is a good and useful model for your client of their business. So having seen how the KPI sheet looks and works and feels and is used each month, let's talk about how it's used in the actual coaching meeting. So as you know, our coaching meeting, our aim is to turn it from a coaching meeting in the early days through to over a period of months to the client's management review. So we kind of introduce it into the coaching meeting. We want to start discussing our KPI performance in the management meeting or in the coaching meeting, which becomes a management meeting. So as I mentioned before, the client has to take responsibility for completion of the KPI sheet each month. You don't really want the owner to be doing this. It's a great way of encouraging delegation, and it should match with the accountability that you're helping your client put in place. So if there's in the marketing section, if someone is responsible for marketing, you want them to be filling the numbers in. Same for sales, so on for operations. A quick word about management information system apps, cloud-based apps. There are lots of these around now. Very powerful, look great, don't cost very much, and their attraction is they'll link to, for instance, Xero or QuickBooks or CRMs, and so they'll take the raw data, and once you've configured a thing properly, it will present this in graphs and tables. And this looks like a great way of achieving what we're trying to achieve, but it's not doing the same thing, and there are some significant dangers to taking this route. Firstly, clients will get seduced by the way the graphs look or the reports look, and they look powerful and nice colors, and so they think, well, that's great, my business must be working properly, I've got all these nice graphs. But they don't actually tell anybody very much about the business. The client has not engaged their brain or their values or beliefs in developing this. They don't understand the linkages. They haven't worked through with you developing this sheet and say, okay, this is what I want to measure. This is why it's important. This is what I think the number should be. So they're not engaged in this. And quite often you get, if you're getting the results from a system and you don't really understand the inputs and you don't understand where these things are coming from, they don't really contribute much to the management conversation, which is what this is all about. And finally, the danger is you end up in a meeting with this sheaf of pre-prepared reports. Nobody has checked it or looked at it or even understood it. So, there's a danger you spend all the time wondering what the numbers mean rather than what the numbers tell you about the business. So, for choice, I would really avoid these, and I would take the slightly clunkier but more engaging and useful route of developing the KPI sheet with your client. So, summary. The KPI sheet is a dashboard for systemized business. So systemized businesses run on numbers, and the KPI sheet is where we bring the key numbers together. It's about the 12 months coming up and the 12 months that have just passed. It reinforces delegation and accountability. So it's like a little map of who's responsible for what on the KPI sheet. And generally every client will need their own bespoke KPI sheet. template provided will get you started. In fact, you could just use it as provided to start with. But really, to be of use to a client, you need to deploy some Excel skills just to tweak it to fit. Okay, that's it.